The Las Vegas Raiders are coming off a disappointing season in 2022, finishing with a record of 6-11. And Josh McDaniels in the front office knew coming into the offseason that they would have to drastically change this team around, add some new talent all over the roster to shock the world next season. The Raiders started off by letting go of quarterback Derek Carr and moving on from Darren Waller as well. Now for the foreseeable future, it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo's team. They also brought in many new weapons, including guys like Jacoby Myers, Philip Dorsett, O.J. Howard, Austin Hooper, and they've also made some solid moves on the defensive side of the ball as well. Now, entering the 2023 NFL Draft, there was still a ton of work that needed to be done, to make this team better going into next season. The good news is they absolutely smashed the draft and added some talent all over the place. In this video, I'll be breaking down the entirety of the Raiders draft class and what they will be bringing to the team, as well as why they can shock the world in 2023. However, before we jump into the video, make sure you guys do me a favor, smash that like button. It helps out the channel so much. So let's see if we can get to 500 likes. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will be covering the Raiders and the rest of the NFL all year long, so join the family. And one last thing. Comment down below, who do you believe or who do you think is the biggest sleeper in this year's draft class for the Raiders? And without any further ado, let's jump right into today's video. Now, coming into the draft, there were a couple of big holes on this roster, or maybe not even big holes, but just places or positions of need. And their biggest position of need were free safety, cornerback, tight end, quarterback, but they also wanted to add some youth along the defensive line because, Chandler Jones is getting up there in age, and they just wanted some young guys to develop and bring in before Chandler Jones, retires. And I think they did an amazing job filling pretty much all of these needs. And with their first overall selection of this year's draft, they went out and drafted a potential future superstar in Tyree Wilson. Now, in my opinion, this was a tough spot here for the Raiders. There was so much talent on the board and so much talent gone as well. There was a lot of interest in Will Anderson, who we all know went to the Texans, and then Devon Witherspoon as well. But those guys were already off the board. The Raiders, however, still were thrilled to land a guy like Tyree Wilson. Now, Tyree is a 6'6", 270-pound defensive end out of Texas Tech who has one of the highest potentials or highest ceilings in the entire draft. Now, I don't think he'll be able to be a day one starter, obviously with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones on the team, but man, will he be able to learn from two of the best pass rushers in the game of football. Wilson is already strong, explosive, and uses his long arms to be a big-time presence in the run game, but has some development to do, but can be a great NFL player in the NFL with some development and some mentorship. Like I said, with some great guys here in Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, I think that will only benefit his game going forward. Now, in the second round, the Raiders wanted to add a new tight end after trading Darren Waller to the Giants, and they did exactly that by drafting one of the most dominant tight ends in all of college football, Michael Mayer. Mayer might not be the most athletic tight end in the world, but he was probably one of the best contested catchers in all of football in college, in all of the draft class as well. In my opinion, I think they stole him in the second round. He possesses amazing ball skills, great catch radius, amazing blocking ability, and simply one of the most complete tight ends in the draft. I think Mayer can be a day one starter if he can dominate in camp, although he might have to earn that job fighting behind some veterans like Austin Hooper, O.J. Howard, who have already proven themselves to be reliable tight ends in the past. But with that being said, tight end has an incredible future for the Raiders going forward, and I love this pick in the second round. Now, coming into the third round, the Raiders wanted to address the defensive line, bringing in a young guy in Alabama, Byron Young. Young is a defensive tackle who can play amazing in his role, drawing a ton of double teams and, just helps stopping the run. He is smart, polished, and possesses the ability to become a solid interior defender at the next level. At the very least, he will be a reliable rotational piece with the potential to become more in the future. Overall, I like this pick to start the third round. Overall, they got Jerry Tillery, a young guy, former top pick from the Chargers. They also got Bilal Nichols from the Chicago Bears. You got Neil Farrell, Adam Butler, but I think Byron Young adds depth and potential at the position going forward. Now, with the Raiders' final day 2 selection, they actually brought in a wide receiver. Now, this was honestly a little bit surprising to me just because they already had a ton of guys at wide receiver like Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, DeAndre Carter, Phillip Dorsett, Cam Sims, and Keelan Cole. However, the Raiders must have seen something that they really like in Trey Tucker to take him in the 3rd round after having so much depth at the position already. Now, Trey is pretty small, but he's very shifty. He's standing at 5'8", and he's a speed demon that can turn any play into a big one. I think that Tucker can develop into a starting slot receiver with some work, but at the very least, he's a good gadget guy who will be an elite return man to start his NFL career. I like his potential. I don't know what he's going to be day one going forward, but I like what he is as a receiver. Maybe Hunter Renfrow is not the future of this team, and if he's not, then look for either DeAndre Carter or Trey Tucker to take a major step up in this team, in the future. But before we finish off the final 5 draft picks here for the Raiders, do me a favor, smash that like button if you're enjoying the video so far. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm going to be covering the entire NFL all year, so join the family and turn on your post notifications. But let's jump right back into the video. So, to start the 4th round, the Raiders finally addressed a big need in the cornerback position, drafting a guy in Jacorian Bennett out of Maryland. Bennett possesses great speed and does a great job getting his hands on the football. Now, he won't be a day one starter by any means because they already have guys like David Long Jr., who they brought over from the Rams, Nate Hobbs, and Duke Shelley. But he also has the ability to become a solid player along this DB group. Now, I don't think he's going to be a day one starter, but I think he's got the potential to be a big-time player going forward. Listen, I think he could be a big-time gunner right away with his 4.3 speed. Bennett is someone who I think will be a very impactful player on special teams, but from the jump, but I don't know if he's going to be too much of a impactful player as a corner from day one. But like I said, I think he can earn himself a big-time job in a rookie camp, mini camp, training camp. I think that's going to be his time to make a name for himself. Now, with the Raiders' 2nd, 4th round pick, they grabbed a quarterback. Now, who could be the future of this team in Aidan O'Connell? He does a great job throwing his wide receivers open and has some pretty great accuracy as well. Although he doesn't do a great job handling pressure and is often a big risk taker, throwing passes that he knows he shouldn't be throwing. To get him in the 4th round, though, I think it holds some value. Should be good for him to step back and take in some knowledge from a guy like Jimmy G. I like this pick here. You have Aidan O'Connell, who can learn from Jimmy G, Brian Hoyer. You also have Chase Garbers. So I think they needed to add a quarterback, some future to the team. I really do like this move for the Raiders and Aidan O'Connell. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like Aidan O'Connell, or do you think they should have waited until next year to bring in a young quarterback? There's a lot of quarterbacks coming up in this next draft that could have amazing potential. I don't think the Raiders will be in a high enough spot to take them. But Aidan O'Connell, a guy I think he has potential. We'll see how he does in preseason and minicamp and all that. But back to the defense in the 5th round for the Raiders, drafting a safety in Christopher Smith out of Georgia. One of my favorite players in this draft class for the Raiders. He can play safety, he can play corner, and he has excellent ability to read the field, incredible reaction ability or reaction to the quarterback. The only downside of his game is his size. He's 5'10", 190 pounds, but he can still affect the game in multiple different areas with his athleticism and his consistency when making plays on the ball. He can play both nickel or safety, and for me, the versatility is what makes him so valuable here in the 5th round. Now, with the 2 last selections for the Raiders, their main focus was just adding depth to this team. Firstly, signing Amari Burney, a linebacker out of Florida, a reliable tackler who has shown constant development in his game throughout his collegiate career. And now in 2022, I think he got his first year being a starter, and he put up an incredible stat line: 79 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 6 PBUs, which is pass breakups. He also had 2 interceptions as well. I love the player overall. I think he has incredible potential. I think he won't be a day one starter behind Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, Darian Butler, Luke Masterson, but I do think he provides some depth and some overall potential at the position of linebacker, which they needed. So I really do love the steal here in the 6th round for the Raiders. Now, with their final selection in the 7th round, they decided to go back to defensive tackle, or maybe nose tackle, in Nesta Jade Silvera out of Arizona State. Now, Silvera has insane quickness that jumps off the tape. And that quickness, you see it right off the snap of the football. Now, he relies too much on that quickness instead of using his technique to get to the quarterback, which can trouble him at times. But the quickness is only something that he can build upon. If he can, build some technique and polish his game a little bit more, I think this dude can be a big-time player, not only just a rotational player, but I think he could be a very good nose tackle for this team going forward. Last season, he had 56 tackles, 4.5 tackles for a loss, and 1.5 sacks. So I love the player. Another big-time potential player in the 7th round. I like the value. Let me know what you guys think about the overall draft class for this Raiders team. For me, I give it an A minus. I think there's a lot of positions of need that they addressed. For example, they brought in a safety, they brought in a cornerback, a big-time defensive end, a tight end, a quarterback. They got some offensive linemen out of undrafted free agency. You drafted a tight end. I love overall what they did to this team, and I think they have a ton of potential with a couple of X factors with Tyree Wilson and Michael Mayer as well, and a bunch of guys who can develop into solid players as well. But when I look at this Raiders team, I think they've come a long way since last season, but there's still a ton of work that needs to be done going forward, with development being the most or their biggest priority, going into the next season. But let's take a look at this roster. So obviously, you got Jimmy G, the new quarterback. You got Brian Hoyer, who they brought over from the Patriots. Aidan O'Connell at quarterback. A third stringer who may be the backup quarterback depending on how he plays in preseason. They also have Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, who look to be your top 3 receivers. But you also got a couple of new guys in Philip Dorsett, DeAndre Carter, Trey Tucker. They retained Keelan Cole. You got Cam Sims coming over from Washington. I like what they've done at wide receiver. The offensive line needs to improve a little bit, but I like what they have going on right now. Austin Hooper, Michael Mayer, O.J. Howard provide a great three tight end set. I love that. And then defensively, you obviously got Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, 2 of the best pass rushers in the game. Jerry Tillery, Bilal Nichols. Don't forget about Byron Young and Nessa Jade Silvera. Adam Butler, Neil Farrell. I think defensive tackle is a deep position group for the Raiders. Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo at the starting linebacker position. Also bringing a guy like Maury Bailey in the 6th round, who I like. And then cornerback, I think, was probably one of their biggest needs going into the draft. I don't mind Duke Shelley coming over from Minnesota. I don't mind David Long Jr. coming over from the Rams. Nate Hobbs, you all know, is an incredible player at nickelback. But you also got Marcus Epps coming over from Philadelphia and Trayvon Mullen, who I love at safety. So I think the Raiders team is very deep. I think it's strong. I think they know what they're doing. Christopher Smith, another safety who come in at depth. Jacorian Bennett, a 4th-round pick, who could play a little bit of corner, a little bit of safety as well. I like this team. I think they're versatile. I think they got a lot of positions of need that they addressed. Let me know how you guys feel about this Raiders team. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Let me know where you think they're going to finish off in 2023. Do you think they could potentially win the division, or do you think it'll be another, not disappointing season, but maybe make the playoffs as a wild card? What do you guys think they're going to do in 2023? Subscribe, hit that like button, join the family, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.